On this episode,
This seems like a million years ago, but it only happened a few years ago. I'm really ashamed of it all now, but anyway, here's my story. We spotted an old couple on the street. They looked like easy targets. There were four of us. We decided I'd be the lookout while my boys took their stuff. JB ran up and demanded their cash and jewelry, and he screamed at them in his most threatening voice. "Don't make me ask twice," he bellowed. That old man, he just smiled. And it was a smile straight from a nightmare. All he said was, "I've been waiting for a night like this for a long time." Ty, my other buddy, he reached for the old lady. She didn't even flinch. She just snarled, grabbed him, lifting him up off the ground. Then the old man grabbed JB and flung him into a parked car, shattering the window, setting off the alarm. The door was bent. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In a heartbeat, they were on Ty. His screams, I can still hear them in my ears. Mex, my other buddy, he tried to move and run, but they were like lightning. I was just so scared. I was paralyzed with fear. And I watched what they done to him. Oh my. They they literally drained him. I mean, just right before my eyes. That old man's eyes were glowing red, and in the most demonic voice, he screamed, "He's mine." And it just echoed. And then I saw what he did to JB. Man, I was so scared. I begged for mercy. And they just laughed at me and looked at me, and all they said together in unison, "Someone has to tell the story." And just like that, they were gone. I mean, I blinked and they were gone. Believe you me, I got right with God after this.
hello, my name is Sharon, and I work at a preschool in Montana. I want to share with you the most horrific experience of my life, my family's abduction by aliens. In the fall of 1989, my then husband, our three children, and I were abducted and terrorized every night for 6 months. Even now, my grown children suffer from PTSD because of what we endured. We lived on 8 acres in a semi remote location in northwest Montana when the abductions began. I believe it started in October. It was definitely fall because it severely impacted my husband while he was hunting. One evening, while we were playing family games, my husband and I saw a streak of fire shooting across the sky. We rushed outside and saw that whatever it was seemed to have crashed on the upper part of our land. The next day we investigated, but found no evidence, just burnt treetops. The following evening seemed normal. We put the children to bed and turned in ourselves. Around 3 a.m., we were awakened by bright lights flooding our entire house. We both felt an intense awareness that we were being watched. I remember being hooked to some sort of TV monitor night after night with hundreds of other humans. I even have a scar from it. Those days and hours are etched into our memories. We reported the incident to our pastor, who came and blessed the house, which seemed to help.
This happened in 2022. My 17-year-old daughter was home alone with our five dogs. At dusk, she saw something very large on 2 feet standing at the edge of our woods. Strangely, the dogs never barked. When she looked at it, it spun around and walked off quickly. At first, I thought she might have been imagining things, but later that year, I experienced something similar. As I walked up our driveway, I heard a stick snap in the woods, and I looked to my right, about 30 feet away, and I saw a very large figure walking away from me down a path in our woods. I stepped back and got one more glimpse of it before it disappeared. I immediately texted my daughter asking her to describe exactly what she saw when she saw it and where it was at. When she got home, she showed me the exact spot. She said it was behind the basketball net and almost as tall as the bottom of the net. She saw it only for a few seconds as it walked quickly behind and back into the woods and out of her view. Right after that, she heard what sounded like it running away deeper into the woods. She described it as a dark color, walking on two legs. I drew what I saw, and she confirmed that it matched what she had seen. I'll tell you, I have to be honest. I really didn't believe in these kind of things until the day I saw it. I archery hunt in our woods all the time and have never seen anything like this before. I looked for tracks. I couldn't find any. Hell, I even looked for scat and didn't find anything. But I know something, something big is in the woods behind our house.
Years ago, I was staying at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, the very hotel that inspired Stephen King's The Shining. Around 3 a.m., I was startled by the sound of children running up and down the hallways, their laughter echoing through the night. Curious and slightly annoyed, I opened the door to see what was happening, but found nothing. Quick little boogers, I thought, closing the door and returning to bed. The next morning, during a tour of the building, my boyfriend and I were stopped by the guide right in front of our room. To our astonishment, he began telling the story of young girls whose ghosts could be heard running up and down that very hallway.
During my freshman year of college, I spent winter break with my cousins in North Dakota. One night we were drinking in a friend's basement with a few other guys and girls. It was really late, around 4 a.m. I was getting sleepy, so I decided to walk home. Despite the cold and the snow, the houses weren't far apart, and the moonlight made it seem almost bright outside. The path we always took went straight behind the house, through some wooded areas, and then across the open land. As I shuffled through the snow with my head down, I looked up to my left and I saw another figure about 50 yards away, walking in the opposite direction. I saw him just before he saw me, and when he did, he jerked, his arms and shoulders clearly startled. For some reason, I laughed out loud from the shock and just gave a little wave like, "Oh, you startled me too, and I'm sorry." He just stood there staring at me, and I thought, is he going to say something? So I stopped and I looked back at him. He wore a full face ski mask, and he was tall, but he didn't say anything. It felt like an eternity. Just me and this strange guy in a ski mask just staring at each other in the desolate woods in the middle of winter at 4 a.m. Anyway, a huge chill went up my spine, and a voice in my head screamed, "You need to get the hell out of here right now." I turned and walked as fast as I could toward home, not daring to look back. So, whoever you are, strange guy in a ski mask, let's hope we never meet again.
You know, I never believed in vampires until one chilly night in my 20s. I was living in a small town in upstate New York, And after a long shift at the local diner, I decided to take a shortcut home through the park. Bad mistake. It was around midnight. The air was crisp, and the park was eerily silent. As I walked, I felt an unusual sensation as if someone was watching me. I turned around and saw a tall, pale figure standing under a street lamp. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light. He smiled, revealing unnervingly sharp teeth. My heart raced, but I couldn't move. He seemed to glide towards me, not walking, but floating. Suddenly, he was inches from me. He whispered in a voice that was both soothing and terrifying, "Do not be afraid." I felt a cold shiver down my spine as he touched my neck gently. Before I could react, everything went black. I woke up on a park bench the next day, feeling weak and disoriented. My neck throbbed, and I noticed two small puncture marks. I stumbled home, trying to make sense of what had happened. I never saw him again, but the encounter left me questioning the existence of creatures that lurk in the shadows, feeding on the living. This experience changed me forever, leaving me with a sense of dread whenever I walk alone at night. The memory of his glowing eyes and sharp teeth haunts me to this day.
When I was a kid, my uncle and I were gathering firewood for my grandmother. On our way back, I felt a creepy sensation of being watched. Just as I was about to look out the truck window, my uncle shouted, "Don't." I froze. My heart was pounding, and then stopped when I heard a tap on the truck window. My uncle sped up, praying loudly in our native tongue. The truck suddenly dipped, and he told me to look at him and not turn away. The tapping came again from the back window. Eventually, the back of the truck bed, dipped again, and then it was quiet. My uncle reassured me, and we'd ask my father for a prayer to make the evil thing forget us. Years later, I had a nightmare about that night and called my uncle. He said he only saw eyes like brake lights watching me. I joked about why he didn't just put on the brakes when it was in the back of the truck, and he simply replied, after a long pause, because it wasn't alone.
While hiking off the main trail along a river, I noticed an older, creepy guy in an open Hawaiian shirt following me. I kept going until I hit a steep bank and had to turn back. I tried to avoid him by cutting through a crane brake, but creepy guy still stopped me and asked, "Hey, looking for a good time?" I firmly said nope and quickly noped myself right out of there.
I had a horrifying experience that I know, well, it couldn't have been a nightmare because I keep getting flashbacks and I feel sick with fear when I remember. I woke up surrounded by people or things. I really can't recall their appearance. I screamed and ran to my mom's room, but she couldn't hear me. When I pulled the cover from her head, nobody was there. Everything just seemed to melt around me. There was a cannula in my hand. They injected me with some type of strange fluid. The pain was unbearable. It felt like it was burning deep in my veins, and I blacked out. Smoke filled my throat. It tasted acidic and thick. I pushed my way out of a tube and I ran, but they held me down and injected me again. The pain I thought was going to kill me. But then I blacked out and I found myself back in my room. I tossed and turned all night, my voice silenced by thick smoke. Screamed for them to take it out. I didn't wake up to 4 p.m. the next day when my mom had to wake me. The veins in my hands were bulging, and I felt an itching and twitching pain in my fingers. Painkillers, nothing ever helped after that. They say I'm crazy, but I don't think so. I'm not sure what I experienced. Sleep paralysis, maybe. But as far as I'm concerned, I had some kind of abduction, and I never want to encounter this again.
Well, when my daughter was 2, I found her twirling paper towel tubes tied with twine in the air. I asked her what she was doing. She said she was practicing her nunchucks. I was very confused as she'd had no way of knowing what they were. I asked her what she meant, and she said that Adam had told her how to make them and showed her each night how to use them. She went on to say that Adam told her to practice because she may need to know how to defend herself someday. I almost freaked out, but asked her what Adam looked like. She said he was tall, blond, and had blue eyes. She said, "Mommy, you know how he looks. You know him. He died of a headache." I had to leave the room. You see, 4 months before she was born, my tall, blonde, blue eyed martial arts pro friend had died of a brain aneurysm at the age of 27. She has not spoken of him since that day, so I'm not sure if I scared her with my reaction or she had completed her lessons.
Last night, a friend rushed me out of my house to catch the opening act at a local bar. After a few drinks, I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. I checked our table, the bar, the bathroom, his car, with no luck. So I used my buddy's phone to call mine. After 2 rings, someone or something answered. It gave out a low, raspy giggle and hung up. They didn't answer again. I just gave up. I just assumed my phone was lost or stolen. And I just headed home. When you know it, I found my phone laying on my nightstand right where I left it.
I just moved into a basement suite and noticed something strange. I always locked the deadbolt, but not the door handle when I went out. Yet, when I came home, the deadbolt would be unlocked and the door handle locked. Initially, I thought I was confused, but it kept happening. Assuming it was my landlady, I didn't say anything. One day, after finding the wrong lock locked again, I discovered an old book in my fridge that I had never seen before. This creeped me out because I collect old books. I finally called my landlady and told her what was happening. She freaked out, saying the previous tenant was a creepy guy with mental health and drug problems. She had all the locks changed that day and it never happened again.